the chaos. I call it positive chaos. Because you have to create the chaos. When it stops being chaotic, it starts being automated. So went the bank teller, and it became an automatic teller machine. So went the travel agent, as I sit down in my house and download my own ticket. So went the cashier when I go to Kroger or Walmart and scan my own food. I could go on and on and on. People who have jobs in America have jobs because they haven't found a way to program the human factor. I had one woman in the company ask me, how could she become permanent? And she worked for a large organization. And I said, what do you mean? She says, well, I'm temporary. So I said, well, how long have you been temporary? She said, 3.5 years. I said, well, what is it you don't like about being temporary? She says, well, I get raises and I get promotions, but I want security. I said, you're the most secure person here. She says, why? I said, because at least you know you're temporary. It doesn't matter if you're physically challenged. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter. Because for the first time, everybody is at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. And we start to look at work. I tell people, you don't have to like this job. You just need to act like you like it. And you have found out, as I have seen and witnessed throughout many organizations across the world, is that in the absence of results, there will always be a review. And after the review, there will be a revision. And we all should be working toward retention. They don't have time to think about what your strategy should be. That's why you're there. Don't you know that if they knew what you were supposed to do, they would automate it? I mean, can you remember the time they used to go through Trump on billboards and they'd have addresses and phone numbers, and now everything has .com after it? But competition has been created because access to information has been made available, and you can handle it. You can handle it. There'll be a few battle scars. Nobody ever had plastic surgery unless they destroyed the face first. Nobody ever built a house unless they destroyed the ground first. Everything that's being built up starts off with destruction. Expect it and make a personal response to change. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
You're great. You're great. Thank you.
And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter if you're physically challenged. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter. Because for the first time, everybody is at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy.
She is dynamic. She gives information to people in such a way that they want to hear it. This is very serious stuff, and Ivory has a passion to tell it.
If you don't understand technology, you can't even watch TV anymore. How many of you have watched the news and they say, if you want to respond, send it by email? Now, if you don't know what email means, then that E for you means eliminated.
Ivory Dorsey as a speaker is someone who brings her whole heart, her whole spirit, her whole being, and creates a tremendous presence on the platform, which creates a dynamic impact.
Some of us would never make those choices unless we were forced. And it reminds me of the story of the dog crossing the railroad track. This dog was crossing this railroad track, and before he could get his tail off the track, a fast train came and cut the end of his tail off. And he turned around, and he was moaning and groaning on that little piece of tail, and another train came. She was awesome. The message was very, very powerful, and I benefit from it tremendously. What worked in the past will not necessarily work today. We are living in a paradoxical time. The paradoxes. Operate as a team. You can't make it unless you operate as a team. But then you have to be strong individually. Independent contractor, entrepreneurial spirit, teamwork, entrepreneur, teamwork, entrepreneur, teamwork. But you have to do it. And what we have to do is we first have to learn to think again. We must learn to think again, and we must see thinking as a skill in and of itself.
Doing more with less. As businesses demand it of their people, the workforce fears the consequences, and competition is licking its chops. The result? Demotivated personnel and shrinking profits for many organizations. But there is an answer to quieting the roar of change, and it's found in the messages of Ivory Dorsey, a top producing field sales rep and sales manager with a Fortune 100 company, an acknowledged expert in customer service training, a successful business consultant, and an author. Ivory Dorsey is a powerful choice to address your next meeting, conference, or convention. Offering programs on sales, leadership, change, customer service, and self-promotion for today's professional, Ivory weaves a verbal tapestry of usable ideas with a memorable presentation style, rich in humor, and based on a tell-it-like-it-is philosophy. Now let's meet this truly unique presenter, Ivory Dorsey.
And that's called competition. That's the business of competition. And ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you, I understand competition. And when we start to look at this, when people start to give up autonomy, when they start to take on partnerships, when you have companies that were arch rivals for years and years and years who are now joining forces, there's only one thing that drives that, and that's cash. And that's why a lot of people don't understand that, so I show them money. You see, without enough of this, you become a takeover candidate. And when you start to look at the collaborations that are going on and you start to look at the partnerships, it's because they want to conserve cash flow. They want to be able to increase market share. And in order to do that, they're going to have to cut down expenses, and that's where your layoffs are coming from. You see, when you start to look at the impact of technology by itself, it's going to reduce a lot of jobs with all of your smart cards. And how many of you used to stand in line looking for the teller to cash your check on Fridays, and the bank was outside of the line was outside of the bank? And now you don't look for a teller at all. They're called ATMs. They're all in the airports. They're in hotels. Those used to be people. That used to be people. And when we start to look at a lot of things we used to do manually are now computerized. So we're going to have a shrinking of the workplace. And I'm saying to people, you can be good, you can be committed, you could do all of the things right and still find yourself out of a job today, because the times, they truly are changing.